The events contained within this program are real. No video or audio has been altered to misrepresent the outcome of these paranormal investigations. Open your mind, curb your fear, and prepare yourself for a world of infinite possibility as we journey into the realm of the believers. This week, the believers traveled to the homestead widely regarded as the most haunted house in Australia.
To me, that's phenomenal. that just hasn't happened before.
There's a male energy in here that's cruel.
People have gone away from here before.
Four and a half hours drive southwest of Sydney rests the sleepy township of Junee. Its early prosperity was due largely to the gold rush that swept the region in the mid-1800s. Not long after, the town's railway would link Sydney and Melbourne, allowing it to further flourish. Today, Junee is known primarily for its agriculture. On a more somber note, it also holds the unwanted distinction of being home to Australia's most haunted house, Monte Cristo homestead. Monte Cristo, meaning Mount of Christ, was built in 1884 by Christopher Crawley and his wife Elizabeth.
My name's Reginald Ryan and I live at Monte Cristo homestead in Junee. We've lived here for 45 years. We've got 10 ghosts here. We've got Mr. and Mrs. Crawley, 3 of their children, and the others are workers here.
Throughout its dark history, it would be plagued with several untimely deaths, freak accidents, and alleged acts of cruelty, leading to tales of tormented spirits haunting it to this day. The late Victorian manor and its surrounding grounds have both fascinated and frightened the local community for generations, firmly entrenching itself in the darkest chapters of the town's folklore.
The main house was laid empty for a long time, then it got vandalised and fell to rack and ruin and laid there all through the 50s. It was always known as the haunted house and everything else. And even me as a kid, you know, we used to play up around there, but we never seemed to want to go into it or near it, but because it did have that funny feeling or spooky feeling in there, you know, you sort of frighten you a bit.
The first official death at the homestead occurred when the Crawleys' nanny dropped their 10-month-old daughter Ethel down the main staircase. The distraught maid claimed to her dying day that an invisible force pushed the baby from her arms. Over the years, many visitors to the homestead have felt a sinister presence on the stairs. Young children are also known to become severely agitated around this area. Mr. Crawley, who was regarded among his workers as a harsh and often brutal taskmaster, died in 1910 from blood poisoning. He passed away in this very bedroom. Some years later, a pregnant woman would also perish here, most likely the result of a botched abortion. Following her husband's death, Mrs. Crawley retreated to the manor's chapel. This room would become her self-imposed prison. she spent the rest of her life mourning her husband's loss, leaving the homestead only twice in her remaining 23 years. Perhaps the most heart-wrenching of Monte Cristo's tragedies is that of Harold Steele. Harold's mother was a caretaker of the homestead and kept her intellectually disabled son chained to their cottage for 40 years. After she passed away in her sleep, Harold cradled her corpse for several days before the gruesome scene was discovered. He was severely malnourished and inconsolable. Harold was removed and placed in an institution where he died shortly afterwards. Coming up next, our team of paranormal investigators arrive at the homestead.
I'm being shown stabbing. I'm seeing that. Ooh. Okay. It's like dragging a body.
Monte Cristo Homestead, otherwise known as Australia's most haunted house. Kerry Waring is a renowned psychic medium and founder of the Australian College of Mediumship. We invited her to Monte Cristo, a place she knew nothing about, to see if she could connect with the spirits that are said to haunt the homestead.
I wasn't a child that would see dead people or have anything quantifiably psychic happen. I didn't make premonitions or anything, but what happened for me was I lost a loved one in '95, who was my only sibling, my brother, and that was quite a tragic experience for me. And like a lot of people, grief leads you questioning, it leaves you questioning about what the world means to you. And I needed to define the afterlife, and that led me to find the spiritualist faith and the fact that you could learn to be psychic, which was something that has been a passion for the last 12, 13 years. Like an athlete nurtures their sporting talent, an artist nurtures their ability to paint and see colour and that sort of stuff. I've just nurtured my psychic talent. That's the only difference.
Kerry deliberately avoided any research into the homestead. Despite this fact, she would continue to make some chillingly accurate readings relating to Monte Cristo's tragic past. Kerry feels compelled to begin her investigation in the stable. It was here, during a prior visit, that she made a particularly strong connection with a spirit.
In here I'm seeing a child being whipped and hurt, so there's been some abuse. It's a little boy.
Not known to Kerry at the time, it was this very part of the grounds where a young stable boy had been brutally tortured and burnt alive.
And what I'm getting is, in our day, he didn't do anything but be a normal kid, But he suffered some, I'm getting the words, intolerable cruelty. And what I'm being shown is after the beating, he didn't recover, and it wasn't too long after that he passed away.
Upon revisiting the stable, Kerry instantly makes another connection.
There's a male energy in here that's cruel. I'm being shown stabbing. I'm seeing that. Ooh. Okay. It's like dragging a body, hiding the body, covering it up as if nothing's, so no one knows. And there's a big A connected with this. I'm seeing a massive big A initial. And I'm getting that it's hidden truth. I'm being directed into that area. And they were still here and they died long time after of natural causes. So I don't think that they were ever brought to justice. I wouldn't mind spending a little bit of time in there and seeing if I can connect with the young boy, but I'm feeling like they're not, that story's not related to this story.
Although no official records exist to verify this claim, many psychics visiting the homestead have felt that a young girl was murdered on the grounds, sensing her blood-soaked body being carried across the back paddock. While Kerry remains in the stable, we catch up with another of our investigators brought to Monte Cristo, ghost hunter Darren Cruz. Darren is the first to admit he has no psychic ability whatsoever. Instead, his talents revolve around the scientific and years of relentless field study.
I'm a member of the Society for Anomalous Research Australia, and I'm a member of the Australian Ghost Hunting Society. The standard piece of ghost hunting equipment is the EMF meter, electromagnetic field detector. We have recorded actual anomalies on that can't be explained by the standard electrical currents in the house, but trying to marry those results up with actual photographs or sound recordings, that kind of thing, has been very difficult. Other things, cameras, the thermal camera, which is only a fairly recent addition to the kit. It's essentially replaced going around with a handheld thermometer. Using a thermal camera, you are getting the full picture, and that's really what we're trying to catch with that. We're trying to catch a full picture, something that can be seen, not necessarily by the naked eye, not necessarily in the visible spectrum, just something that can be seen, can be displayed.
Coming up on The Believers.
Ola's been shaken vigorously in bed when I haven't been there. She's had hands on her shoulders, had her name called, and she doesn't really like being in the house.
People have gone away from here possessed.
Shocking revelations and voices from beyond the grave.
To me, that's phenomenal. that just hasn't happened before.
My youngest daughter, she's seen old Mrs. Crawley in the chapel on 3 occasions, and you couldn't pay her enough money to sleep in there.
People have gone away from here possessed.
After exploring the grounds of Monte Cristo, Kerry ventures inside the manor. She enters what most likely would have served as the men's drawing room, a place for gentry to retire after dinner to enjoy their port and cigars.
Oh, I'm not meant to be in here. I'm a female, I'm not allowed to be here. So I may not get a lot of, because I'm crossing that line and doing what I'm not meant to do.
I'll just give it another minute. No, it's almost like I'm being kicked in the bum. So that's my cue. I do feel a little lightheaded and woozy coming up those stairs.
Kerry knew nothing of the circumstances surrounding the tragic death of baby Ethel on the staircase. In spite of this, she suffered a similar experience on a previous journey upstairs.
I'm getting goosebumps. It's coming up here, which is for me an indication of spirit energy around.
Kerry makes her way into what is commonly known as the boys' bedroom, the location where Mr. Crawley and at least 2 other people have perished.
It's almost like if, you know how sometimes in the old days they would hide their money? I think if they did that, this would be the room.
Christopher Crawley had little trust for banks or paper money and insisted his business matters be dealt in gold sovereigns. Rumours persisted that his fortune was left buried on the property after it was abandoned, and this legend of lost gold would almost destroy the homestead. Treasure hunters would descend on the property, vandalising and virtually gutting Monte Cristo in their desperate search. It was in this state of total disrepair that Reginald and Olive Ryan purchased the estate in 1964 and immediately set about restoring it to its former glory.
We didn't know anything about the house when we bought it, and we didn't know anything about the history of it. And it was only after we'd been in the house 3 days we'd learnt that it was different. And what happened, we went downtown one evening to get some supplies, and as we turned and came back up towards the house, there was light streaming from every door and window of the house. The house had never had electricity on it. We owned 1 kerosene light and it wasn't even lit. We actually stopped the car in the driveway. Olive didn't want to come up, and I said, well, we've got to go up there, that's where we live. And that's the first thing we knew our house was a little bit different.
This was to be the start of a long list of unexplainable events for the Ryan family. It would be years before they could even keep a pet on the premises.
The first week we brought our pet cat over from Wagga, put it down in the house, and it went completely mad. Raced up the broken stairs, jumped off the 2nd floor, and we never ever saw it again.
When the Ryans finally managed to rear a litter of kittens, their joy was short-lived. They awoke one morning to a blood-curdling discovery. Each of the kittens was found dead and mutilated on the kitchen floor. The house was locked from the inside, and no point of entry could be detected. These horrific killings would soon spread throughout the homestead.
When we were first here, I thought, you know, a few acres, we'll have some hens, some laying hens. So I bought a dozen laying hens, made a yard. And so they're only in there a few days, and I went down there all dead in the cage. I thought, well, I'll make a coop. I'll put a top on it so nothing can get over it. Put a gate on it and a slip bolt and a padlock, so you had to have a key to get in. Got another dozen laying hens, and even brought our pet galah over from Wagga and put it in with them until we made an aviary. You know, and I went down on about the 3rd day and they were all in there with their necks wrung, even the galah. So we decided it wasn't good to have pets there.
Many of the visitors to Monte Cristo have been confronted by its ghostly residents. Some have been so traumatized by their experiences, they vow never to return.
Lots of experiences have happened here. Not so much to me, they seem to accept me. I think they brought me here to do all the work. Olive's been shaken vigorously in bed when I haven't been there. She's had hands on her shoulders, had her name called, and she doesn't really like being in the house.
Last time Kerry was here, she sensed some of the activity common to the master bedroom where Reginald and Olive sleep.
I'm being shown tossing and turning, restless activity in here, so this is not a peaceful room for people that stay here. I'm being shown people being pushed, woken up while they're asleep.
Of all of the ghostly apparitions sighted in Monte Cristo homestead, Mrs. Crawley is by far the most prominent. It seems that she continues to rule the homestead from beyond the grave and is known to appear and order people out of her house.
Although there's an older lady presence in this room. Grey hair. She's I wouldn't say much taller than me. I've got pain in my chest with her as well.
Kerry's reading is eerily poignant. Mrs. Crawley suffered heart failure as a result of a burst appendix.
And I'm just getting a blood disease with her as well. I'm just getting the words blood disease, so she must have had some stuff going on with her blood.
Alive, Mrs. Crawley dominated Monte Cristo with an iron fist. In death, it appears nothing has changed.
And I'm just being shown that her energy, it's like it embraces the whole place. This is her home. And she will at some point get tired of us being here.
It's like I'm getting just a little glimpse, and what I'm being shown is like peeking through curtains. I don't want to assume it's Mrs. Crawley, but that's who I think I'm connecting with. I've just been told, don't ask any questions. Almost like just do as you're told.
Kerry proceeds to the Manor's Chapel, a place where Mrs. Crawley's ghost is said to frequently inhabit.
My youngest daughter, she's seen old Mrs. Crawley in the chapel on 3 occasions, and you couldn't pay her enough money to sleep in there.
This is Mrs. Crawley's sadness. It's like that aspect of her personality that she didn't show a lot of people. It's almost like, it's locked away, it's hidden just like this room a little bit.